This is something I promised I would watch yesterday. The time skip. If Blizzard does a time skip in WoW, I think that it could either kill the game or bring it back to life. It'd be one or the other. I don't think it'll be somewhere in between. I think it'll actually be like a very impactful thing.
World of Warcraft has always struggled with peace between the Alliance and the Horde.
Yeah.
Why? Well, it's a game, an expansion where everybody is happy, gets along well, and we work on the economy, infrastructure, and legislation. That wouldn't really be fun, would it? There needs to be a new threat every 2 years, and canonically, the timeline of Warcraft does reflect that. Well, Ian recently said this regarding Shadowlands' narrative focus and how time works within the Shadowlands. Here's the quote. "We will have to see how this difference in time will affect our characters when we come out the other end. Yes, we'll only know how much time has passed once we exit the Shadowlands at the end of the expansion." Now, speculating to...
That's because Blizzard doesn't know how much time has passed until the end of the expansion, too. I don't think they have any idea, dude. Like, they're probably not planning this. I don't... Maybe they have it planned out, but I don't know. I feel like it's kind of unlikely. Okay, let's go.
2 or 3 years into the game's future is a fool's game. But with this time skip, we could be speculating 10 plus years into Azeroth's future. And the more we thought about this, to be real with you,
that'd be crazy.
The more it actually made complete sense to us. We are going into the Shadowlands, and we are not coming back until the expansion storyline is complete.
Okay.
Now, of course, you will be able to teleport back to Orgrimmar, but that is not canonical. That's just gameplay stuff.
Yeah, it's a gameplay mechanic.
Not the state of the world and the story.
Which makes sense.
When we're away in the Shadowlands, though, Azeroth will keep spinning. We are going to ballpark the time skip at 10 years. That's enough to give the latent tensions of Azeroth some time to develop while still retaining the majority, of course, of the characters that we know and love.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
What's going to happen when we're away during this time skip that I really do think Ian has literally teased? And then more importantly, when we return, who's going to be there to meet us? What's going to go on? So today, we'll explore how Azeroth will develop and, of course, while the people of Azeroth may enjoy their decade of peace or whatever it is, that's not going to last long because it's World of Warcraft, and our return from the Shadowlands will obviously kick off a new era of Warcraft story, likely.
Don't you think that'd be really fucking funny if, like, Blizzard went and they were like, yeah, well, the Alliance and the Horde got along for 10 years, and now they're not getting along again. So once you guys get back from the Shadowlands, you have to do Battle for Azeroth 2, and the faction conflict is in full swing again, and it just resets everything. No, really, think about it.
Dude.
That's smart.
It needs to be over. Like, the faction conflict needs to be fucking over already. Like, it's been rehashed so many times. Like, god damn, dude.
I don't think that necessarily has to be over, but, like, having it be, like, the core focal point of the story probably doesn't help the story a whole lot. I don't think that it does.
No.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Oh, dude. You know what I'd like to see?
What?
When we come out the other end, and then all that time has passed, and it turns out there was like still some hidden energy or something in the sword of Sargeras, and like it turned into like some big ass tower, like fucking Ganondorf's tower there, and like it like turns into a goddamn raid, and there's like fucking the entire zone is like turned into like fucking Sargeras's like fucking like, you know, asshole or something. It's just all these mobs coming out. Just it's a complete fuck fest. You know what I'm saying? That would be fucking dope.
So the sword would like be a portal to like allow the other like
it'd be like a seed. It'd be like a seed where the evil grows out of, and because we're not there, then nobody's there to stop it, and it just takes over all of Silithus, and it just turns into one big fuck fest. You understand?
That'd be fucking badass. I'd like that a lot. Holy shit, we cleared of hemorrhoids? No, there's no hemorrhoids. I'm just saying it would be cool. All right, that's all. Ocarina of Time skip. Yeah, I never thought of that. Yeah, Ocarina of Time had an obvious time skip. Yeah. Wow. Fuck. I guess, like, yeah, and that actually kind of did make sense. I think Blizzard could pull off a time skip and it would work. But it would be confusing for some people, I think. How can it be World of Warcraft with no factions? with no fucking water. That's fucking stupid. Well, I mean, like, it was World of Warcraft and Burning Crusade, and everybody was fighting against Illidan. It's been World of Warcraft in Warcraft 3 whenever everyone was fighting against Orcamond. I mean, I don't think that's it's too much of a generalization.
We think an expansion the likes of which we have never seen before.
Okay.
Now, do you want to unlock content that you have never seen before because it's region locked? Well, use today's sponsor, NordVPN. You'll get 70% off at $3.49 a month with your first month for free. Link below. Now, why get a VPN? It's simple. Do you want to watch content from another region, right? Say a Netflix. Well, you could use Nord's 5,000 plus servers to choose your location and then use the internet as if you were actually there. They also...
This actually works. Izzy wanted to watch this fucking, like, Swedish version of the Real Housewives of Las Vegas or Beverly Hills, and they wouldn't let her watch it, so she actually downloaded NordVPN, and I forgot if she used somebody's code or not for it, but she wanted to be able to watch this show, and it wouldn't let her do it, and so she had to try to do all that stuff. Ad? It's not an ad. Listen.
So keep you private. Your ISP, they're not going to know what sites you're using, so that means your ISP can't sell your browsing data to advertisers, nor can they prioritize some of the sites that you use over other ones. Nord also are a Panama registered company, and that's important because it means that your government can't get to them to breach your privacy, and privacy is vital and important, it needs to be protected. The app and browser extension are super easy to use, and you, of course, will get 70% off and a free month at nordvpn.com/Bellular Gaming. So, thank you to them for supporting our content, and with that said, let's get going. Peace, prosperity, and good times all round. Under their new council, the Horde deepened their grasp on Kalimdor. Not through war, though, no, but through building. With productivity increasing amongst the Horde, the peoples are just doing better than ever. Then we've got the Night Elves, still reeling from their collective trauma. They have begun constructing a new home in either Feralis or Hyjal. Yes, Tyrande still does want her vengeance, but she is stuck in the Shadowlands, separated from the rest of her people.
That would be cool.
Who are de facto led by Chandris and are moving in a different direction. Over in the Eastern Kingdoms, then, the Forsaken and the Living of Lordaeron have a tenuous accord, allowing progress to be made by both groups. A rebuilt Stratholme shows the region's newfound prosperity.
Nope, I don't want a rebuilt Stratholme. That's stupid. That area is dumb. You know what I want? We go into Lordaeron, and we get that shit back. We take all the poison, we put it in the garbage, and then we clean it up, and we get Lordaeron back. And we take the undead, and we put them in the garbage. Don't want any more undead. Have they go live in the Plague Lands or some fucking bullshit, right? Who cares about them? You get rid of them, and you take the city back. It was our city to begin with, and it's still our city. And you know what the undead can have? They can have Stormwind. Nobody likes Stormwind. It's an annoying, stupid city. It's convoluted, it's boring, and it's played out. Let's trade Lordaeron for Stormwind, and we're gonna move over to the new great city. Yeah, I fucking hate Stormwind. The only reason I'm in there in Classic all the time is because that's where the Omni buff drops.
A great Azerothian peace has appeared, something hardly experienced within living memory for the planet's people, and something that we have literally based on the Pax Romana, which is really the idea of an extended peace after a prolonged period of warfare, in this case from Roman history, and it seems like Azeroth is primed for that. What about the existential threats that have appeared every couple of years, though? Well, while we are lost in the Shadowlands, Azeroth has finally saw the results of our heroics. The Dark Titan was imprisoned, the Void Lord's plan was thwarted, and the Light still feels like a distant threat. Yeah. So it's really all pretty good. One of our writers, Jared, has spent the last month examining Lordaeron with extensive detail in the lore articles on our Patreon page. Now, to summarize, the area is a hotbed of political turmoil. You've got Kalia, Lillian, and Tandrid essentially fighting for peace between the many factions, but bringing Gen to the same table as the Forsaken, that could be impossible, or at least very challenging.
Yeah, he's a dog.
The Argents and the Living of Lordaeron, they'll be keen to, claim their stakes on the the soon to no longer be Plague Lands. Now, what about the Forsaken, who say prefer the Horde? Will they accept Kalia and Tandrid, alliance figures, as mediators? You know, and then where does Silvermoon fit into this? They have learned.
Listen, like, I think this whole thing with, like, give us Gilneas back, you know what they need to give us? Kalia? I think they should have, like, they need a character with really, really big titties. And I feel like they don't really have that. And if they had that, that would immediately be, like, they could make any character, it doesn't matter what she did or anything, she would be everybody's favorite character. And it would be like Warcraft 3 Sylvanas. Yeah, exactly like Warcraft 3 Sylvanas. Like, look at Warcraft 3 Sylvanas. She had some big-ass titties in Warcraft 3. I mean, let's be real. And then they've just slowly nerfed her boobs every single fucking time. And I've been pissed. It's a complete disappointment. And Jaina's hot sister, I don't think Jaina has a sister. But the point is that, like, if they made a character like that, you know, that would be everybody's favorite character. Let's say that. Alex Strauss has big titties. Yeah, that's a good start. Hearthstone, Jaina pre-nerf? Yeah, exactly.
From the past, perhaps, that isolationism can bite them back pretty hard, and they're maybe the most outward-looking of the elves. I mean, back in Mists of Pandaria, they almost switched sides to the Horde. Lorthamar is clearly a shrewd leader who is keen not to repeat the mistakes of his forebears. So, Lordaeron is somewhere where a lot could change. There is then, of course, the Night Elves. It looks like Tyrande will be in the Shadowlands with us, and that means that the fire in their grief will be gone, potentially transforming it into something, well, more constructive, more positive. Then we've got the Zandalari. They're in a strong position to, essentially, reunite the troll peoples. And this may mean that all trolls of all tribes will be in the Horde. And that is actually something that is reflected in Shadowlands' character customization updates. This would actually give them the ability to reconstitute the trollish empire that they have been going on about since, what, patch 1.7, but I'd say...
I kind of like the idea of having the bad trolls, you know? It's like, if we don't have a troll raid every other expansion, is it really WoW? I mean, is it really WoW if you don't have a troll raid where they're just fighting the trolls, beating the shit out of them? I don't know. I feel like that's the way the game's got to be, man. That's just the way the game's got to be. I hate troll raids, to be honest. I think they're great. I like troll raids a lot. I'm a big fan. You can always add void trolls. Stop. Don't give them any ideas, okay? Void trolls.
Very much so in a more constructive and more peaceful manner. Really though, just moving past the Zandalari, this is a big question for all of the allied races. What will happen after they picked their side?
Nothing.
I mean, I assume they'll be building new homes and forging destinies for themselves. You've got groups like the Lightforged and the Void Elves, who I think will be key to the narrative, but are naturally few and far between in number. However, you've got the likes of the High Mountain, the Maghar, and the Nightborn, who are all larger factions. They'll clearly all be rebuilding and charting a new path forward, a way for them to move past the wars that we drafted them into. So we will return to find these factions in a pretty new state. But I'm especially interested in the Maghar.
I don't really give a shit about the Maghar. I mean, like, I did the fucking quest where you have to do all the stuff and, like, you fight against Jarell and everything. But what I'd really like to see them do is to completely revamp Old Azeroth. Like, have all of Old Azeroth completely revamped and be level scaling and relevant for a high-end player in multiple ways. And I want them to do a Cataclysm like that. And then in terms of new zones, I'd want to see the Dragon Isles. I'd want to see like Quel'Danas, things like that. I'd want to see another like Scarlet. I think that if they add the Scarlet Crusade as like a very, very, a very domestic threat, on the Eastern Kingdoms, add them. And then on, I don't know, on Kalimdor, add the Quillboars again, okay? And so if they were able to just do a power reset, I think that's something that the game kind of needs. Because right now, the players are just so powerful in the lore that there's nothing that's actually going to be a challenge. So, for example, whenever we went up against the Lich King, like, I remember I watched the first kill of the Lich King, the world first kill of the Lich King when I was in programming class. I almost failed that class because I was watching videos about WoW all day. I watched it, and, like, the Lich King fucking put down the sword, and he just killed everybody. And I thought to myself, I was like, fuck. Like, what's going to happen now? Like, because this is the first time, like, nobody knew what was going to happen. Like, nobody had any idea. And so, like, yeah, this is, like, the first normal mode kill. Like, not heroic. And, like, I didn't know. Like, I actually didn't know if we were going to kill Lich King or not. And now it seems like every challenge that we face, we're going to be able to beat him. And I think that they do need to do something to just reset players' power. And just take it all the way back down to basically 0, where players can be the adventurer again and not just the glorious and, you know, I don't know, like massive, amazing hero. It's too much. Not true. Same happened in Legion last boss. I don't know about Legion last boss. Yeah, they're like champions, demigods, you know, saviors of the Alliance, like 18 different titles. They need to do like a complete like cosmetic reset. They need to do a total fucking reset of the game. There's just too much bloat in the game. And I think that they should have like kind of 2 different worlds in the game and kind of separate them and move the game forward in like a more organic way rather than trying to just continuously incorporate in like old stuff into the game.
As for why, well, listen on, because this piece is not going to last, and later in this video, we're going to explain how we think the peace will break. So yes, we'll return to find our faction strong after years of peace and development. And ultimately, the power behind this type of narrative is that it gives us, the players, something to care about, something to rally behind. We have spent so long, right, seeing the factions just fall to pieces. To return and to see them strong and grand and actually benefit from our efforts, that would be the perfect way to re-establish the state of Azeroth for players and to lay the foundations for the game's next decade of stories. And you can be pretty darn sure that Blizzard does want there to be another decade of stories.
Yeah, of course.
That said, though,
because they want to make more money.
Details. Let's talk about logistics. With the game director of World of Warcraft, I think essentially teasing a canonical time skip, you do have to wonder, will there be a revamp? I mean, it's a tantalizing question, but I have to be honest, I doubt we will get one like Cataclysm, given the extreme workload that Cataclysm ended up being. I instead believe that we will see targeted updates to the world that represent the state of the world, perhaps only for max level characters though.
I think that's what they should do. For like low level characters, I think they should play through the story and not really like have that happen. And then for max level characters, they obviously do the revamp for everything. Like for example, I really like the new Arathi Highlands. I think the new Arathi Highlands looks really good. It's missing, in my opinion, a little bit more like depth to it and like other stuff to do. But I do think that revamping old world stuff and then giving players things to do in the old world and revamping the zones is a good thing. I like that a lot. It'd be weird with different zones being in different timelines. Yeah, it would be, but I think it'd be better. Like, if you're playing through the game and then the zones advance with you, I think that would kind of make sense.
Now, this would be a great opportunity to reset the state of Azeroth for max level characters so that it reflects the story so far, and to allow Blizzard to set up, as I said, the next decade of stories.
Bring back the Scourge.
Much like how Warcraft 3 was able to set up the next chapter, well, I guess the first chapter of World of Warcraft's life.
Yeah.
So, what could change there? I mean, the possibilities are rather infinite, but you could think of some pretty simple targeted changes. You know, have the Dark Irons retaken the rest of Blackrock Mountain.
Ooh.
Then, with the many threats of Tanaris tamed, have the Waste Wonders established a city or a larger camp? Will we maybe see the built-up Gadget Zan as teased by the Hearthstone expansion? You know, what about the work that we put into Westfall? Will max-level players see a prosperous Westfall?
No, we've given them sons of bitches so many plates of soup. They're not going to do anything. They're just going to sit around and lay around the outside of Westfall and not do shit. Yeah, fuck Westfall, man. Like, the thing is that, yeah, they need to add, like, I think that having, like, smaller storylines that matter to players in, like, the way that I think the classic storylines mattered, I think it's really important to getting people attached to the game. And the reason why I don't think that's happening anymore, I think there's a lot of reasons, but some of the biggest reasons is that the quest lines aren't long enough, and then also the quest lines just kind of play themselves. And I don't like the idea of having the quest markers and stuff like that, because it doesn't help the, like, for the Defias quest line, you'd have to read the quests in order to figure out what you had to do. And in the process of reading the quest, you'd learn the lore. So now, because players never have to read the quest to figure it out, there's never going to be a point where somebody unintentionally learns lore of the game. They just play the game naturally. and no exploration tied to the story, yeah, I think so. Nobody's gonna read shit anymore. Well, what I'm saying is that, like, say a guy levels in Instance Classic, well, yeah, because I leveled in Vanilla. What I'm saying is, like, in Vanilla WoW, like, I learned what the Defias was. You know, I learned the Stalvin quest line, you know what I mean? And I learned these old quest lines because they were cool, and you had to read the quests and figure them out. And now, because they're so easy to do, and obviously people are going to have add-ons, but I think that having add-ons doesn't necessarily mean that you shouldn't try to create a good experience. It should be very important for Blizzard to create, like, these small stories that players can latch onto and feel attached to. It's extremely important, and I think the first way to do that is figure out ways for for players to be able to actually, like, get them to read the quests. And I don't know how to do that, but the first thing I would do is get rid of the markers. Like, get rid of the markers and make it to where you actually have to read the quest or download an add-on, like one or another.
Underhull, Dire Maul, Feathermoon Stronghold, Stromgarde, right?
Yeah.
So many places whose reconstruction and
I'd like
development could be, well, completed by the end of this time skip, by the time that we return. You know, at its highest level of scope, this might even let Blizzard repair the Cataclysm. I mean, to have an Azeroth that, for max level players who have played through all of that, to actually have the world no longer reflect a decade-old expansion storyline by default. A lot really could happen, but there's a lot of cracks that could also form.
Yeah.
This piece that we've talked about is not going to be easy. Those left behind in Azeroth will still have to struggle for peace, because peace is not easy. We've got the resurgent Scarlet Brotherhood, who will attempt to subvert developments in Lordaeron, as we covered in this video. Then, the Night Elves. Well, they may well have to contend with all of the problems that naturally come in rebuilding and consolidating. Desires like that naturally lead to land disputes, resource disputes, you know, the usual non-Space Satan Void Lord reasons that nations do bicker, even when peace would make the most sense. Yeah. So yes, regions will maybe see cracks form, right? As
I think that having, like, zone-wide conflicts, probably, again, like, more domestic type conflicts that players can be, like, more directly involved in, I think that does kind of matter a lot, where, like, your individual character makes a difference in the conflict in a reasonable way. So, like, for example, in Argus, like, the player's character doesn't really do anything in the same way that it felt like you were doing something on, like, a smaller scale. And I think that once you extrapolate that to, like, a big scale, like, oh, you're saving the world or something like that, it's not as believable and it's not as visceral for somebody. And having the smaller scale stories that exist in a little zone and, you know, like, smaller quest lines that just matter to players, I think that makes a big difference. It doesn't work anymore. Nobody cares about foxes versus snakemen and Vol'dun. Let me think. That's a good point. That is a good point. How do they do it? Why do they not care? Why does it not matter? Is there no feeling towards the world? You need characters? Too many quests? Too many rewards? There's no reason to care? Okay, well, let me ask an interesting question, at least to me. For those of you guys that didn't care about the quest lines in like Vol'dun or Suramar or whatever, did you go and play Classic and care about those quest lines instead? So there's plenty of people who just don't care about the lore in the game. I think that's basically what it is. Yeah, people just don't care about the lore in the game. I think that's a big issue in my opinion. I think that Blizzard does need to do things to make players want to care about the lore. Not make them care about the lore, but make them want to care about the lore. Shit, I don't know, man. It's a really complicated issue, but I do think that, like, yeah, I mean, and like in Classic, you just download the add-on, but I don't know.
Sides try to push their agenda, and those may be small, but over 10 years they could grow. And this is, I think, where we'll see really introduced a host of new antagonistic organizations. Maybe the die-hard Night Elves who await the return of their vengeful leader Tyrande will form up, those who crave vengeance. Maybe there will be Forsaken who feel their nation is weak and has been blunted without Sylvanas' ruthless leadership, that the older Forsaken were strong.
They need
Groups
a new
like the
crazy
Scarlet
bitch.
Brotherhood, maybe a revamped Twilight's Hammer, or others, right? Perhaps
that'd be
ones
badass.
infiltrated by the Ethereals, as we teased in this video. Maybe tying into, you know, just some of those mysteries, right? Much of this stuff can be straight up new lore. A whole cast of semi-relatable villains who just make sense from the state of the world to fill our dungeons in the same way that, say, the Defias Brotherhood were a very effective antagonist. So with the
I think that's true. Like, let's see, what villains do we have this expansion that were good villains? Like, end bosses? Like, Gahoon was dumb. Fighting Jaina was dumb. Crucible of Storms, I mean, like, Unat was kind of cool, I guess. I think probably Unat was the most interesting one, which is, like, kind of stupid, because Unat, there was, like, nothing even really going on with him. Eternal Palace, Ashara's Eternal Palace, like, Ashara. I guess probably Ashara would be the main villain that I think a lot of people are looking at doing. Zul was good. Yeah, I mean, in terms of, like, all the bosses, like, I cared about killing Zul and Mithrax. Those were cool. Battle of the Zaralor, nobody gives a shit about any of these. Crucible of Storms, you know, this guy was kind of cool. Lady Ashfane mattered. Zaquil was cool. And then Queen Ashara was cool. And then in Nilotha, Il'gynoth, maybe? Il'gynoth, and now it's like the only one. Maybe Ra-Den. That's it, man. Zone legendaries, maybe legendary abilities. I don't like that. Yeah.
Short reset and broad peace, we will see these new organizations appear, but we will see the peace broadly maintained. And I think it
I want
will
to see
feel
Gilneas
pretty
as an
good for a
actual
while.
city.
And that is where the true conflict will begin. Our old adversaries have not sat idle. The Void Lords are not nearly done with us. The Titans also may be less friendly than we may think, but it will not be the Void who strikes first. It will not be the Titans. Two characters will return, ones who we absolutely will not want to see again. The Dark Portal once again roars to life. Sentries go dark, and word is sent from a rebuilt Netherguard keep. But this time it's different. The portal has exploded to life with a chorus of angelic music and shining light, and a great golden host comes through it. The first invasion of the light has begun, an ascendant Yrel at its head and a fanatical Zira at its heart. What better enemy to threaten our newfound liberty and progress? You know, when I heard...
So, the Inquisition. I don't know, man. I need to take a piss, guys. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Okay, give me a second.
Heard about the Light Mother from the Sermon of the High Exarch, alarm bells immediately went off. And that was ages ago. It was definitely an alt-universe Zira, or close enough to that to make me uncomfortable. And she was advocating at the time for a light crusade across the whole universe, the results of which, well, we can see in the aptly named scenario, Tyranny of the Light, that introduced
I saw this one.
This would launch the first expansion of World of Warcraft ever with the Light as a villain, whilst violently launching the game into the next phase of its grand narrative, the Great Cosmic Conflict. This is all following on from Steve Denuzer's drive to explore the Cosmos chart from Chronicle, but actually in-game. The invasion of the Light will be the first shots in a war so massive that it will preoccupy us for years and take us to crazy far-off lands. In the face of that, the only way for Blizzard to give us something worth fighting for is to upgrade Azeroth, and to do so via a time skip. And to
I think they need to. They need to upgrade the shit, man. 100%. Like, be the latest expansion of Final Fantasy. Yeah, they need to just upgrade. Scarlet Crusade would help Yrel. Yeah, I think Scarlet Crusade would ally with Yrel. That's what would make sense. Oh, fuck, man. I'm just thinking, come out boss takes a month or two to kill. I mean, Blizzard does need to bring out stuff that has like a scope to it, and it's not just like super easy to do. Because right now, I think one problem that they have with the patches is that unless things are just unnecessarily time gated, players complete all of the patch content in like a few days, and then they're pretty much done with it. And they need to create like a degree of, I guess, like time that it takes to do stuff. And it's just, you go through it so fast, and they need to make it harder to do. I think for average players, just generally harder to do. Because it's just too fucking easy at this point. It's too fucking easy to do the quest lines and everything like that. There's no sense of accomplishment or prestige or fulfillment after you complete the war mode campaign or the war stuff campaign. Dailies, not dailies. Fuck time gating though. I think some time gating is okay, but the way that they do it now is not.
Care about, B, I'd say solidified and re-established. So
yeah.
There you go. We will be gone, and all this socio-political drama will be fermenting, ready for us to return. We'll inevitably bring back something with us, though, right? You know, while the homesteaders are fighting Blight, and Orgrimmar maybe solidifies its influence over Kalimdor, and Thrall works out the tax code, we'll be rescuing, spoilers, from dungeons. We'll be discovering more about Elune, probably, about the source of the Lich King's powers. We'll be grappling with a damned Dreadlord and rebellious Kyrians. We are going on an adventure of cosmic consequence. It's just one that's siloed off in the Shadowlands. And the narratives that we bring back to Azeroth will add a whole other dimension to what you could otherwise see to be the mundane but tense politics of peace.
In my opinion, I actually always enjoyed the vanilla WoW perspective of the game, where you had like all of these little micro conflicts going on, and you had the politics of the different areas, and there was no real grand crusade that you were fighting or, you know, world-threatening force. It was just these different latent forces and evils that you had to repel. And I always felt like that it was more real. Because I'm trying to think of like the way to describe it, but I think Cthulhu is an exception, right? Cthulhu is obviously very powerful, but overall, I just would like to see the game return back to not needing to use like these massive degrees of like consequence in order to tell stories, and go back to telling like just good, clean, like small stories. And I think that's something that they could do more of, and it would probably be more helpful to the players because it's easier for them to kind of like understand and maybe like personalize. More like a living world. Yeah, it's more like a living world. I think that's a good way of putting it, because like if everything's just against like some big massive like evil force, it just feels too much like a game. And I think, you know, going through the different areas in classic WoW and you know, looking at the different plights of the people in those areas and solving their problems or fighting against them or whatever it is, and even like especially like quest lines that span more than one zone. I think that's like really important for games, especially MMOs, to have like that breadth of the game, that it just kind of takes you from place 1 to place 2 to place 3. I think one way they did this very well was actually in the Legion class order hall quest lines. I thought that was awesome, and I'd love to see them do more of that. That was actually really fun, and I remember whenever they did the class order hall campaigns, I actually went back, whenever I did like a few of them, I went back and I just turned on the dialogue and actually played through the campaign, because it had like actual like real world effects in a way with like Azeroth. So pretty much like Shadowbringers storyline. I don't know what they do over in Final Fantasy. I have no idea, but it's what they did in classic WoW. Omnipresent danger. Yeah, it's like there have to be like dangerous forces. I mean, in classic WoW there were dangerous forces, but there wasn't like some like overbearing force that everybody was worried about. It was just something that kind of, I don't know, it's like just different bad things at the same time.
And that really brings us back, though, to the idea that all roads lead to Azeroth. That this great game between light and void that we've talked about so much in this channel has not yet peaked, and that there are still legions of unbound demons as well. You know, we don't even know what the Titans want. We don't know where they went. You know, it seems pretty dark, right? And we're going to be
where did they go? What the fuck? That's a good point.
Resources, and perhaps the will to defend ourselves against the infinite antagonism of the cosmos. And that's really where we're going to be leaving it for today. A pretty big video. I like how, you know, we're able to go into the small details of just the nuts and bolts of how Azeroth could actually develop over 10 years, but then to bring in the light and the actual next big steps for the game, and how Blizzard could still give us players, you know, hype, danger expansion, hype expansion, right, with big major moves happening, but still find a way that the story of World of Warcraft feels a little bit better paced, right? So
I think a really good example of this, I just thought of this, is like, think of it like this. It's like the difference between like the first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones, which was kind of like classic WoW, and then the last 4 seasons of Game of Thrones, which was like current WoW. Where in the last 4 seasons, the last 2 seasons especially, they were completely centralized around like a couple of extremely powerful, like direct threats. But at the beginning, you had all of these different power plays going on, all of these different stories happening, and all of these different kind of, you know, political plays and stuff like that happening. And obviously, like, the spectacle of, like, you know, the Night King riding on the dragon or something like that is cool, but that doesn't necessarily make it a good story. And I think that games should focus on making good stories and not good spectacles. And like overall, I watched like a few Game of Thrones clips, and it's like back in the day, you know, in like the early seasons, the show was really fucking good. And I'd like to see the game kind of take that perspective rather than just having like one centralized threat. I think sometimes that's okay with like, you know, a patch or something like that, like how they had Cthulhu. But it seems like we're just going from one centralized threat to another centralized threat. And I don't know, like, it doesn't feel as real to me.
So that the people of the planet actually get to grow and get to develop. And I think that does mean that, you know, there's just more stuff going on that us players can actually be attached to and can be interested in. So that is it for today's video. Let me know though, what do you want from Timeskip, right? What things do you want to be updated, right? Orgrimmar, you know, Garrosh remade it to be so violent and warlike. Well, what's this new council going to do? Are they going to revamp Orgrimmar, make it a bit nicer? Who the hell knows? I just love to know, like, how would you love to see Azeroth progress? You know, the Plague Lands. What do you think a more developed Plague Lands would be like? So do let me know down below.
More plagues.
And yeah, just with that, thanks for watching this video. We loved putting it together. And yeah, I'll see you next time.
Yeah, getting people that care about the story is super fucking important. I think that's the main thing. Care more about the quests if they were voice acted? If the quests were voice acted, would they care? Yeah, I think so. I think that they would care a little bit more. Like, having all of the quests voice acted, I think, is unrealistic, but having some of them voice acted would be good. I definitely like that. Let's see what they're saying here. Ready for a new Silver Moon, maybe with a cleaned up dead Scar? That would be badass. I'd like that. I'm actually not a huge fan of having, like, Yrel come back and, like, have to fight her, because we've already had that happen. We've already... Like, I don't want to deal with, like, alternate timelines. I think that they're silly, unless it's something like, you know, what else going about? The fucking other stuff like that. Yeah, it's retarded. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that, okay? That's really what it comes down to. I'm not a big fan of that.